There are many different paths to realization and many different practices to quieting the mind. The most popular by far is meditation. And as good as it is to meditate, releasing, or the practice of letting go, is far more powerful and far more effective. And what we're going to take a look at today is the differences between releasing and meditation, what makes releasing more powerful, and even if you are releasing, should you also meditate to make things even better? We're going to take a look at all that today, coming up. Welcome to the Power of Quiet, the simple way to self-realization. So if you want total control of your mind and more happiness and abundance in your life, then you've come to the right place. So if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. You're going to love what we show you because it is 100% experiential, meaning you get to prove it to yourself. And if you're a regular here, you love the work that we do, it makes a difference in your life, then let us know. Hit the like button below, leave a comment, share your gains, or any questions that you have. I'll do my best to drop in and answer whatever I can. Now today, we're going to take a look at the difference between releasing and meditating, because they're both designed to quiet the mind. But what's the difference, right? How do they work? And which one is better? Now, I'll give you the quick answer to that, because my teacher, Larry Crane, who is a student of Lester Levenson, Lester being the spiritual master whose work we're putting out here through this channel. What Larry used to always say is that meditating is the next best thing to releasing, implying that releasing is number one and meditation comes in second. Now, I had to qualify that because it's not just slightly better. There's a big gap between the two. Releasing is far more effective than meditating in terms of quieting the mind. And I'm going to go over specifically why that is. I mean, after all, you might be thinking, well, how can you say that? Doesn't it depend on the person? And they're all ways to go free. Who's to say which one is better? I mean, how could you even consider that? That's all comparison. That's all ego stuff. Now, I'm going to give you some very specific, objective reasons why releasing is much more powerful, much more effective. And I'll give you a demonstration of releasing so you can see for yourself how quick and easy it is to use it to quiet your mind right on the spot. And also, we'll take a look at if you should combine the two. After all, right? If releasing is number one and meditation is number two, if you put them together, you should have something that's great. But I'm going to share my own experiences and insights about that, so we'll address that later too. So what makes releasing so much better? Right? How can I make such a bold claim? Well, first of all, the big difference between releasing and meditating is that meditation is a passive practice to quiet the mind, whereas releasing is active. And here's what I mean by this. When you meditate, you're just focusing on one thing, putting all your attention onto just one thing. So if your meditation is on your breath, you're just focusing on one thing, your breath. If it's a mantra, you're just focusing on that mantra. If it's yoga or Tai Chi, you're putting all your attention on your body posture and position. And so with all of your attention on just that one thing, you're not paying attention to the rest of the noise that's going on in your mind. And it kind of works like this. See, if I'm the ego and I'm trying to have a conversation with you, because that's what the ego does. It's always trying to talk to you. It's like that thing never wants to shut up. But if I'm trying to talk to you and you never engage me. You never respond. Eventually I'll get the hint. Eventually I'll realize, hey, they're not even acknowledging me. I might as well just give up, right? What's the use? So gradually, over time, when you meditate, that ego gets a bit quieter, because you're just not feeding it any energy. But it takes time. This is why, like the serious meditators, the monks and so on, they devote their whole lives, and they spend all their lives in the temple, maybe even with a total vow of silence, so that they could just focus and meditate. But it takes a long time to do that, because that ego's been around a long time. Not just this lifetime, but many lifetimes. And it doesn't give up so easily trying to talk to you, even trying to just hook you in subtly so it still has a grip on you. Whereas releasing is something that is active, meaning it allows you to be proactive. Because releasing is a tool. It's a skill. So as you practice it, the more skillful you get, the better you get, and the more effective you get in using this tool of releasing. But here's the thing, and this is what a lot of people overlook, because they concentrate so much on the tool of releasing. But that's only one half of it. The other half of this work that we do is applying this tool. And this is where all the classes come in, where we work through a workbook of exercises, the attachments and aversions, the goal charts, and all these wonderful exercises that are all designed for you to go into yourself, go into your own subconscious, pull up your subconscious thoughts and feelings, your suppressed negativity that you don't even know is there. But these exercises are designed for you to call it up, just like calling up a menu on a computer. So you could see what's in that computer and then delete what it is that doesn't belong there. So by applying this tool and using the exercises, it allows you to be proactive. So you're not just waiting for the quiet to eventually fall upon you. You get to grab the bull by the horns, take it upon yourself to carry yourself there by going in and actively going for the stuff, going for the negativity, going for whatever it is that's in there that bothers you, taking responsibility for it, and then using the tool, releasing it. Now, the second thing that separates releasing from meditating is that oftentimes, most of the time, meditation really requires the right environment. It's difficult to meditate when you're in Times Square. It's much easier to meditate when you're in your meditation room with the incense burning and the beautiful music playing, or you're in the ashram, right? There, it's much easier, much more conducive for you to get quiet and to focus. Whereas releasing, you could do it anywhere. You could do it in Times Square. You could do it even if you're in the middle of a war, even if you're on the front line in Bakhmut. You could release whatever fear or agitation is coming up in you and get nice and peaceful, no matter what sort of chaos is going on around you. And on that note, the third major difference between releasing and meditating is that releasing can be done in the heat of the moment. So say you're out in the real world, where sometimes people can be a bit obnoxious. So say you got somebody that's in your face, screaming at you. Oftentimes you don't have the luxury of saying, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Let's just hold off for a second. Let me go meditate for a couple of hours, and then can we come back and resume this? Oftentimes you don't have that ability. So you can't really meditate, right in the middle of a crisis. Whereas once you get nice and skilled with releasing, someone can be in your face, even threatening you. And you can release right there on the spot. And here's the brilliant thing about it. You get to see the causality of what's going on inside of you and the world around you. So, say someone's in your face, like I said, threatening you. You might feel fear, like wanting to recoil. Or you might feel some resistance, your own aggression, like, I just want to punch you. But you feel that inside of you, and you go, whoa, wait, I don't need that. And you can just drop it right there. And what happens is, right in front of your eyes, because you let go of your own resistance, like your own push against what is happening in front of you, it just dissolves the whole thing. And you literally see that person just stop dead in their tracks, like they run out of gas. They got nowhere to go. Oftentimes, they'll even do a 180. And then all of a sudden, they'll just come your way. And you get to recognize, prove to yourself that everything that's going on out there is just a reflection of what's going on in here. Instead of having to focus on trying to fix and control what's going on out there, you just fix what's going on in here. And then what's going on out there turns out to be perfect. So those are the three major reasons. Now, a couple of more reasons why releasing is better is that, see, one thing that meditation does, and this is just what I've seen with people, in various spiritual groups and so on, they kind of get into this bubble of peace. Like, well, I can meditate and I can kind of have this sense of peace around me, but don't rock the boat, right? A lot of times there'll be this attitude of, yeah, I got all my stuff sorted out, but I don't want those people with their bad energy coming around and messing with my space. And it kind of creates this ego separation also, like, oh, I'm better than them. I'm not like them. I'm a meditator. I'm spiritual. I'm not like those people. And so it can feed the ego. And like I said, just kind of create this bubble of, hey, don't mess with this piece, right? And that's a very fragile thing. But releasing, like I said, it allows you to take responsibility. So you can't ignore the fact that you have some negativity when it shows up. You take responsibility for it, right? And instead of pretending, oh, wait, that's not supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be better than that. I'm a meditator. I'm not supposed to have those thoughts. Well, the thoughts are there, right? You take ownership of them, you use the tool, and then you can eliminate them. But if you're just kind of, pretending like, hey, I shouldn't have that, then it kind of leads you to just float over the negativity in this kind of sense of, oh, okay, I'm being spiritual, but I got a lot of limitations. And that's the other thing. You also get to take responsibility if you have limitations. Can you demonstrate what all these other masters demonstrate? And you hear from all these other masters, whether it's Yogananda or Eckhart Tolle or Lester, they all create great things. Like they have no limitation. And they can demonstrate feats of abundance effortlessly. And it's very easy to rationalize, oh, well, that stuff's not that important. But if you have that limitation, take responsibility for it. Where's that limitation coming from? It's coming from a sense of I can't. I'm not good enough. But that's not where Master's coming from. Master doesn't have any limitation. So by not floating over your feelings, by taking responsibility, by being proactive, now you can face those limitations and overcome them and prove to yourself that they're unnecessary. They don't even exist. And also, along that lines, meditation can lead to laziness. And here's what I mean, because this can also happen to releasers. See, I've often had certain students who would say, I'm not really into doing those exercises, right? Doing those worksheets and sitting down, doing the writing. That's too much work. But what I really like is when you do these little cleanups and other little guided releasing things that I could just sit back and just bliss out and, oh, that's so great. And if you could just do more of those, please, that would be just fine with me. But see, this sort of lazy attitude kind of stems from wanting someone else to do it for you. And I see this sort of laziness a lot with different spiritual groups and people that practice different ways of spirituality, because there's a sense of, well, the guru, right, the master, is going to just touch me on the head and enlighten me. Or, they're always looking for someone to do it for them. Whereas, again, with releasing, it's all about taking the bull by the horns, standing up for yourself, and doing the work that is required to drop that ego. Because guess what? No one can do that but you. And so releasing gives you the tool set to stand up and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do something about this. Enough's enough. I'm not going to mess around with this ego anymore. I'm just going to eliminate it. And you just go to work, right? You roll your sleeves up and you work at it. Now, again, see, the lazy side of the spiritual person would say, well, it shouldn't require work, right? And what you're talking about is counterproductive. It's putting more effort in. And that's just coming from the mind. Because what appears to be work, when you sit down and do all these exercises, it isn't work. It isn't work at all. In fact, this leads you to the place where you have no work. But the attitude of, oh, well, I should just sit back and just let it come to me, it doesn't really happen that way. You have to step up to the plate. And that's, again, what this method is all about. It's for someone who's willing to be proactive. All right? So before we get into the experience of releasing, the question I know sometimes comes up is, well, why not do both? And here's the thing. For a while, I was doing both because for a number of years, I used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area. And while I was over there, I was introduced to another spiritual master by the name of Mata Amrita Nandamayi, or otherwise known as Amma, the hugging saint. And when I heard about her initially, I was like, that didn't sound like anything I'd be interested in. But I went there anyway to one of her retreats because she has a big ashram over there in the Bay Area. And I sat and I watched her and I realized, wow, she's coming from the same place Lester's coming from. She's a master. And so for a number of years, whenever she would come to, from India to the United States to her big ashram there in the Bay Area, I'd always set aside that time and go hang out. And one of the things I learned from Amma is a meditation practice. And it's very specific and it's very powerful. It's this meditation that incorporates yoga and sound and visualization and breath just all together. It's a very, very nice meditation practice. And also, while I was there with Amma, she also gave me a personal mantra, right, from her to me, that I used to use. I used to use this mala and just recite the mantra 108 times back and forth on this mala. Both of those practices were outstanding. And I did them for, I don't know, a year at least. And what I found was that I was releasing and doing the meditation, and I was enjoying the meditation so much. I was going so deep, almost like leaving my body every time I meditated. And eventually, I started to examine what is I experiencing with that. And I realized that what was making the meditation so deep was the releasing. It had a profound effect on how I was able to go far into this meditations. But the converse wasn't so much true. The meditation didn't have so much an effect on the releasing, right? The releasing was good, but it's not like the meditation added anything to it. Whereas the releasing, it really added to the meditation. So I saw, well, if the releasing is giving so much more, and that's the thing that's more powerful, why don't I just do that? And I just let go of the meditation, and I haven't looked back, right? The releasing is so much more effective. And here's why. Like I said, they're both designed to quiet the mind. But what's brilliant about the releasing, because like I mentioned, it allows you to pull out from the root, the very root of what's creating the agitation, what's creating all the noise and all the negative feelings. The method goes right to the root of that, and you just pull it out, just like pulling a weed out by the root, and it does not grow back. And so every time that you apply the method, you're getting that much quieter permanently. So every release that you make, you're getting quieter and quieter and quieter. So basically, what's happening is over time, you don't have to meditate. You're just in a meditative place. You're just naturally quiet. You don't have to sit down and focus on something to get quiet. And because you're just pulling the stuff out the roots that's causing all the noise and agitation, whatever noise is left, it's very easy to just drop it in the moment. You don't have to really focus and meditate. Once you spend enough time releasing, it's very easy to get quiet if you wish. Just drop the mind for a moment, until you just release until the mind's completely gone. Now, on that note, I want to share a story about my teacher, Larry. Many years ago, there's a graduate of the method who's a research scientist, and he's a very brilliant guy. And he got together with some other research scientists that were researchers and developers originally, back in the old days of Hewlett-Packard. And he got together these guys, and they developed a EEG, brain reader that could actually measure your ability to release. And they had this whole interface for it. And I remember when he developed this thing, and he brought over, kind of the first iteration of this meter to Larry. And he had shown this to other releasers and tested it with releasers. And for most releasers, when they hook this thing up and then they start releasing, on the interface, on the computer, you just see this ball just, kind of like drop. It's like a visual representation of when you're letting go. So you just see the ball drop and drop, and maybe like something else, like thought will come in, it'll come up again, and they'll release, and it'll be drop, drop, drop. And that's the way most people were like when they were on the meter. But when he brought it to Larry, and he hooked Larry up, he said, okay, Larry, okay, do some releasing. I want to see how this works with you. Larry, he just closed his eyes. He just went like this, and that ball just went boop. It just like fell right through the floor in an instant, showing that when you spend the time releasing, you just clear out all that stuff. So if you choose to, you just really go quiet, just like that. And this is something that I often ask in my classes, because I have a lot of times the same students come back again and again, right? Because they get results. And every single person I ask, even people that show up and they're saying, I'm not really getting these big gains that I'm after, and I'm not sure if I'm doing it right. Now, every single student I ask, okay, well, how long have you been releasing? 2 years. How are you now versus how you were 2 years ago, as far as your noisy mind and other problems and so on? And every single person, they look at that and they go, big difference, huge difference. So every single person, they recognize this over time. When you apply this method and you stick with it, like I said, you keep this work-like attitude of, hey, whatever it takes, I'm going to roll up my sleeve and do whatever it takes. And I'm not going to stop until I get this job done. Every single one of them, it's huge. It's just been massive. And I am way different than I was before I started. And every year, right? Even someone who's been releasing for 10 years, right? Is there a difference between now and 1 year ago, right? Going from 9 years of releasing to 10 years of releasing. All right, just in the last year, big difference. So the more you use it, the quieter you get, the deeper you get, and you just keep doing it, and eventually you get there. And you get there quickly. Like I said, you get there much more quickly than meditating. So let's do some releasing now. Like I said, this is something that you could use to be proactive and take responsibility for whatever's bothering you or a limitation that you're facing in your life. So take a look to see if there's something in your life now that worries you. Do you ever get worried? And also what's great about releasing is it gives you the opportunity to be honest with yourself, not rationalize. Oh, well, I'm not worried because I know, at least intellectually, that I'm an unlimited spiritual being, so I don't need to worry. But deep down inside, you really do, right? Oh, I'm worried about that, and I don't want that to happen, and so on, right? So you get to be honest with yourself. So what worries you? What are you worried about? Now, another thing that's great about releasing is it's a process of discriminating. And you see, one way to discriminate about the worry is to simply ask yourself, have you ever worried yourself out of a problem? Does worrying help you in any way? Now, to the ego, it might say, yeah, right? The worry has me looking out so I don't do something stupid. But you don't need worry. You don't need fear to keep you from running out into traffic. You just don't do it. You don't need the fear or worry to stop you. And also, if you look at the worry, how does it help you? You're just dwelling on a problem, dwelling on a scary situation, and feeling bad about it. And what good does that do you? Like I said, have you ever worried yourself out of a problem? Of course not. right? But we all tend to worry a lot. And maybe it's not necessary. So think about something that worries you. And what we're going to do is just a very simple version of releasing. So you can just see the difference really quickly here. Now, when you're thinking about that thing that worries you, you have to think about it, right? So you got this story going on in your mind. It's a thought that's going on up here. And see, from the neck up, all that mind is a recording and playback machine. That's all it does. It just records things all day long, and then it plays it back to you. So this thing that you're worried about is just something that got fed into your mind sometime in the past. Ooh, that might be a problem. I don't want that. And then the moment that recording goes into your mind, then it plays it back to you. Oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. Got to worry about that. And that's the way the mind works. It's not anything that's complicated. It's just a machine, a recording and playback machine. That's it. Now, it doesn't have an erase button up here. All it does is it records and plays back to you. But where you can erase things is from the neck down, in your stomach and chest area. So, as you're thinking about this problem in your life, this thing that you're worried about, what I want you to do is just close your eyes and put your head down towards your stomach or chest. And notice if you feel a tightness or contraction there, kind of a clenching feeling. You notice that? Now, what that feeling is, that contraction, is you pushing down on that worry, pushing down on that fear. That feels uncomfortable. The whole idea of if that ever happened, oh, I wouldn't want that. And that's a very uncomfortable feeling. And you're like, that's a feeling right here, right now, and I don't like that. And you're pushing it down. Like, ew, that's icky. But as you push it down, it's trying to come up, and that's where you feel that pressure, that tightness. So wherever you feel that, in your stomach or chest, open up an imaginary window or door right in front of that feeling, right in front of that contraction. And just imagine that contraction now moving out that door. And it doesn't matter if you're a visual person or not. Just let that energy leave, that's all. Just open up that imaginary door and just let the energy go. And let that energy go a little bit more. And even more. And some more. And even more. And let that energy go even more. And even more. And even more. Just open up. Let that energy leave. You don't need to examine it. You don't need to know why it's there or where it came from. Just open up. Just let the energy leave. It's just energy. It's not good. It's not bad. Just let it leave. And let it leave even more. And even more. And even more. All right. Now notice how you feel. Notice the difference. Now you might notice you feel lighter. And that's all we're looking for. It's just a lighter feeling. And when you think about that thing that worries you, or that worried you, it doesn't worry you so much anymore. When you take a look at that, see if you're as worried as you were a few moments ago. Notice a difference? Even if it's just a little difference. Because notice, you just release for only a couple minutes. And you might still have some worry there, but like I said, you might notice, hey, actually I feel much more positive about it. Even more of a sense of I can. Right? Even if that happened, I can deal with that. I don't need to worry about it anymore. And the whole story just starts to go away very quickly. And this is showing what I was talking about, how when you remove the fuel that feeds all the thinking and all the convolutions of the mind, when you just let that energy go, the mind settles down. It's not racing around anymore. And even when you think about that situation, you're like, oh, it's not a big deal. I don't have to worry about that anymore. All right? Now, we're going to do a little different variation of this. Now, think about something that you're really afraid of. Maybe you're afraid of going broke, right? Losing your means to making a living. Maybe even ending up out on the street. Maybe that's something that's been in the back of your mind. Or you're worried about something terrible happening to the planet, some big catastrophe or something. Like, any day now. All right? Think about something that really sparks some fear in you. All right? Maybe a body problem, disease or something. I think I might have that. I don't know. But it sure frightens me. All right? Got something in mind? Now check this out. Measure that fear when you think about that situation. Measure that fear on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 being the most fearful and 0 being the least fearful. Just see where you're at. All right, you got a number there? Now whatever that number is, maybe it's small, maybe it's just a 2 or 3, maybe it's a 10, maybe it's off the chart. A 27. Whatever that number is, notice that when that fear comes up, your tendency is to say no to that fear. Like, I don't want you here. You're bothering me. I can't do stuff with this fear. It's debilitating. And so, for lack of better words, when that fear shows up, you tend to say no to the fear, right? Now again, let's discriminate about that. When you say no to the fear, does that make the fear go away? No. In fact, it probably makes it even stronger the more you fight with it. So if saying no doesn't work, let's do something different. Take a look at that fear. Take a look at that number that you saw that fear is at, right? It's at a 3, a 7, 27, whatever. Just take a look at that fear. Now, if saying no doesn't work, let's do the opposite. Could you say yes to that fear? Just look right at it and say yes to it. And could you say yes to that fear a little bit more? And could you say yes to that fear even more? And could you say yes to that fear even more? And could you say yes to it even more? And even more. And could you say yes to that even more? And could you say yes to it even more? And that's it. It's not a big conversation. It's just yes. 3 simple letters, Y-E-S. That's all. It's not complicated. Could you say yes to that fear even more? And could you say yes to it even more? All right. Now, measure yourself again and see if that number moved. Right? Maybe you went from a 7 to a 5, or maybe from a 7 to a 1. Notice a difference? Did that number drop? Now, if there's any fear left, like if there's like a 1 left or whatever, see, you already have some momentum. You let go of a certain amount of that fear. So now let go of pushing down the rest of it. Just let the rest of it come up. It wants to leave. All of these feelings want to leave. All you have to do is just get out of the way, let them leave now. So just allow that fear to arise. Just let it come up. Open up. Just let that energy evaporate and dissolve. Just let it go. And a little bit more. And even more. And some more. And even more. And how do you feel now? Notice a difference? Feel less bothered? More lighter? More happier? A bit freer? A bit more positive? That's it. And here's the thing. Who did that? You did. It wasn't me. You did that. So that's showing you have the power in your hands to just empty out your whole mind, empty out your ego. And now, when you think about that scary situation that really brought fear to you, see if you're as bothered now. Maybe you feel more like, you know what? Even if that happens, so what? I'm not bothered by it. I could have that happen and I could be positive anyway. And what that shows is you're moving more towards a place of imperturbability where no one and nothing can bother you. And that's the real mark of a master. A master isn't bothered by anything. That's what makes them a master. So that's the simple path. That's the destination that we're going to. And here we have the tool set in order to do it. Now, the tools that we just did here are just scratching the surface. You know, these, like I said in the last video, when I went over different ways to release, there's really only one method that Lester gave us. And it's not exactly what we did here, but what we did here is just a demonstration that you can release. And like I said, it's just scratching the surface. If you want to go deeper and really get the most out of Lester's method, and also, if you want to now step up and be proactive, because like I said, this method, releasing, gives you the ability to face your challenges, face your limitations. So if you're in a position where you have some goals like, oh, I'd like to do that. I like to be wealthy. I like to have this abundant lifestyle. I like to have a house on the beach or a wonderful relationship. You could have all those goals, and the only thing that's stopping you from having them is just your own negative thinking. Quiet that mind, and then any goal is just a decision for you to have. So if you want to now get proactive and actually use goals to bring up all of your I can'ts, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't deserve it, all that stuff that's holding you back in here, then join me for the new 6 weeks Conscious Creation Master Course. It's starting this January. And we're going to dive right into the heart of Lester's work of using goals not only to free ourselves, but also create some pretty awesome stuff in our lives to demonstrate that it's all our picture. So jump on board. Really prove to yourself that you can go all the way, that this doesn't have to be a lifetime job. Lester said, you could do it in 2 weeks or less. And you can. So if you're ready to step up and take on the challenge, then join me in this new 6-week course, because we're going to be jumping in with both feet. We're not going to hold anything back. So I'm going to leave a link to it below, also right up above here, so you can click on that and check out the course and register. And use this method for all it's worth. After all, here you are in this lifetime with this opportunity, with these wonderful set of tools. And now is a real opportunity for you to go all the way. And as usual, I really appreciate you being here. I love this opportunity to share this wonderful method with you. I look forward to seeing you again. So happy releasing. I'll see you soon.